SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom was a game I had fond memories of when I was younger. I loved roaming around Bikini Bottom, visiting characters and locations like Squidward, Sandy, the Krusty Krab, and even the Shady Shoals retirement home. For years, I always wanted THQ and Nickelodeon to bring back this game because it was beloved by so many people as well. And last year at E3, my wish was granted. It was revealed that Battle for Bikini Bottom would be getting a full-on remake for modern consoles in SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. After paying over $300 for the Fun Edition, playing it, beating it, and getting the Platinum Trophy, I was left with a little bit of disappointment while still getting a decent dose of nostalgia. Hey guys, Game Prime here, and this is my review of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. This game's story is pretty simplistic as one would expect. It starts off with Plankton showcasing his newest plans for world domination, a whole army of attack robots. However, before turning on the robot duplication machine called the Duplicatortron 3000, Plankton forgets to set the machine to obey and gets kicked out of the chum bucket. Meanwhile, as SpongeBob and Patrick are playing robots and resources, they wish for real robots to play with instead. Unfortunately, their wish was about to come true in the worst way possible. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is a 3D platformer collectathon in the style of games like Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. You play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, all with their own unique abilities to help you collect your main collectible in this game, Golden Spatulas, in which you need to find 10 in most levels to progress further in the game. There are also Patrick's missing socks that you can trade into him for more Golden Spatulas. Your main source of quote-unquote currency are the shiny objects, and these have many uses like paying clams to build bridges or open areas previously inaccessible, or paying Mr. Krabs for more Golden Spatulas. At first, I thought I would have no problem collecting shiny objects, as this was a 3D platformer and all I had to do was smash everything and anything in sight, defeat any enemies I see, and I'd be on my merry way. Well, if this was the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, then I wouldn't have ran into the problem that I did. After collecting every spatula and sock in the game, all that was left for me to do was pay Mr. Krabs so I could get the rest of the spatulas. In Rehydrated, however, Mr. Krabs became a lot more greedier than he did in the original. Here you will see a list of shiny objects needed for each of Mr. Krabs' 10 golden spatulas. This was a very unnecessary change and required me to actually grind for shiny objects. Overall, the game feels pretty good. It didn't take me long to get used to how the game felt, since it did feel heavier than the original at first. It still has that floatiness of the original though. So, as mentioned before, your main objective is to go to these worlds that are famous locations from the show and collect 10 golden spatulas each, along with a certain number of socks for Patrick. Now, some of these worlds are a lot better than others in terms of polish, which I'll get into when I talk about the performance. But the game seemed to have a rather odd pacing with the levels. I didn't remember a lot of the levels vividly from when I was little, so it was nice experiencing things essentially for the first time all over again. But playing this game as an actual game and completing it and getting everything in it is a lot different than playing it as a little kid because you enjoyed the sandbox aspect of Bikini Bottom. Some worlds will have boss battles, like King Jellyfish or the Flying Dutchman, and then sometimes there will be one-off bosses that you need to beat in order to progress further in the Bikini Bottom hub world, such as Robo Patrick and Robo Sandy. Most of the bosses in this game are well designed and polished pretty well. The final boss in particular was probably my favorite and was rehydrated the best out of all the bosses. Overall, as a 3D platformer collectathon, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated was a decently good one, but not perfect by any means. If it wasn't for that obsessive shiny grinding, it would have made completing and 100%ing this game a lot better and easier. I don't understand how they could make a reverse quality of life improvement. Rehydrated also introduced a new multiplayer mode, which was not in the original game. The concept for this multiplayer mode came from the Robo Squidward boss battle that was cut from the original game, though you could see concept art of it in the theater. This multiplayer mode is a horde battle where you and one other friend take on many, and I mean many, waves of enemies. I played this mode with my friends on our multiplayer channel and it was honestly a boring drag. The coolest part about this was the addition of characters like Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Roboplankton, and Gary of all characters. It took us over 25 minutes and we weren't even completely done with it, and just turned the game off. It was that bad. This was the laziest way possible to add in the Robo-Squidward quote-unquote battle, if you could even call it that, because it's not a battle at all. You were just simply defeating waves of normal robots over and over again. Nothing was unique about this mode and should not have been included at all. Now this is where I'm going to start ripping the game apart. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is a remake of the 2003 game, not a remaster. It's not the same game, but with a new coat of paint. The developers, Purple Lamp Studios, faithfully recreated every single thing from the original, since the original source code for the original game couldn't be accessed. This was a full-on remake from the ground up. Now visually, this game looks great. The character models, I believe, are taken from the new SpongeBob movie that's about to come out over the summer. Every single area in the game, though, got a complete makeover and looks more vibrant and more full of life than ever before. Comparing this game's visual style to the original is absolutely crazy, and I couldn't believe how dark and dull looking the original was. I played Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and you're seeing gameplay of it on the PS4 thanks to Videogmz for letting me use their gameplay. I also bought the game for the Switch as well to do some comparisons. The PS4 version runs at 60 frames per second for the most part, although there are occasional dips, especially when there's a lot of shiny objects on the screen, or if you blew up a bunch of tikis. I'm just going to say it now, this game is pretty unpolished and untested. If this game spent a few more months in development and tested, I think the final product would have been a lot better and reviews would be a lot better as well. If I could give a percentage, I'd say this game feels about anywhere between 15 to 20% unpolished. The hitboxes for characters are way too big. I would be a good distance away from TNT tikis and they'd still damage me. The camera can get really wonky from time to time, especially in tight spaces like in the Murmur layer, and areas take a few extra seconds to render in all the textures. There are just so many little annoying things that build up that make you want to grind your teeth. There are also graphical glitches as well, like in Goo Lagoon. I kept looking at the water and it was doing this weird thing towards the left screen, no matter which way I positioned the camera. The Murmur layer was the level that started to finally aggravate me and push my buttons a lot. And I was starting to figure out why the game was getting poor reviews. Although, as mentioned before, some levels are definitely way more polished than others. Rock Bottom felt practically flawless, and I didn't see any bugs or glitches of any sort, whereas Goo Lagoon is filled with unpolished sections. Speaking of Goo Lagoon, I was playing as Patrick in the amusement park area. I saw the golden spatula that I later figured out you needed SpongeBob for to do his bungee jump in order to get, and as Patrick I went and jumped for it, and to no one's surprise, I died. Although right after I did so, my game crashed. It didn't send me in too much of a panic, as this happened before in some games. It's uncommon enough, but nothing to frighten me. It wasn't until I booted the game back up where I was extremely unhappy with the game and the developers for not bug testing. My data was corrupted. It said it right on the main menu. There shouldn't have been any reason for that to happen. I blame it fully on a lack of polish and bug testing within Purple Lamp. If it wasn't for PlayStation Plus cloud saves, I wouldn't have been able to get all 3+ hours I put into the game back at that point, and I would have probably shelved the game and came back to it at a later date. That, to me, is unacceptable to have in any game, and made me state that they should have spent a few more weeks or months bug testing and polishing this game. Aside from that major bug, the other things that drove me nuts in this game were the deaths and load times. When you died in the original, you would be spawned back almost immediately. In Rehydrated, it takes about 10 seconds and a loading screen. This, I have no clue, but it feels like these guys have gone backwards in some ways of redeveloping this game. I don't think I've ever played a remaster or a remake where the death or loading times are more abysmal than the original. This also plays back to the shiny grinding I had to do for Mr. Krabs. I ended up going to Sand Mountain and going down Guppy Mountain hundreds and hundreds of times, and dying hundreds and hundreds of times, and seeing the loading screen hundreds and hundreds of times. All that, while in the back of my mind I'm still fearful that I'm going to die and the game's going to crash and corrupt my data again. This shouldn't be the mindset a player has when playing a game. These are rookie developer mistakes that shouldn't happen in a remake of such a beloved game. The one thing I did find weird was that in the level SpongeBob's Dream, when you're in one of the many characters' dreams that you could visit, like Sandy, Mr. Krabs, or Squidward's dream, if you die there, you will spawn back almost instantaneously, like how the game should be and how the original was. One final thing to point out. The cutscenes are a nice little takeaway, and the writing in this game is phenomenal. I wish I could elaborate on that more, but if you're a fan of the writing of the first 4 seasons of SpongeBob, then I really think you'll enjoy the writing of this game, because there are a lot of moments that made me chuckle even when I was in a bad mood. Though the one thing about the cutscenes that drove me nuts was that there was constantly the hold to skip button below the scene. It's always there and it never goes away. Nothing like seeing the end cutscene of the game while still seeing press circle to skip on the bottom. It's just little details like that that drove me insane, because there were just so many of them that after a while, they built up and dampened my experience with this game. Now, as I mentioned before, I played, beat, and completed this game on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I did buy the Switch version, and if I could give a quick recap of the Switch's performance, from what I could tell so far, is that it runs at 30 frames per second mostly, the load times are even more ridiculous than on the PS4 Pro, and the game has horrible draw distance and takes even longer to render and load in textures and graphics. It's cool to see this game be able to run semi-decently and be played on a handheld, but if you have anything else to play this game on, please, 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 please play it on there. Also, the Switch version changed the controls of the game as well, where it's A to jump, where on the PS version, X is to jump. There isn't any way to change this either unless you manually do it from the Switch's controller option within the operating system. This game has so much going for it, but it's a shame that a lot of it gets diminished because of the poor performance from each version. Ever since I played the original Battle for Bikini Bottom when I was younger, I loved and absolutely adored the soundtrack for this game. Composed by 3 men by the names of Jimmy Levine, Bobby Carew, and Alex Wilkinson, the remastered tracks keep everything that was great about the original and just brings it up to a higher quality. I wish I could say that about the gameplay as well, but at least we still have many bops like Jellyfish Fields, Kelp Forest, Chum Bucket, and of course the iconic Bikini Bottom theme. Now, what I am about to say might sound a little petty, but I spent over $300 on the Fun Edition of the game, got 3 sweet statues of SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, some great socks, some neat tiki keychains, some sweet art prints, but they couldn't throw in a code for the soundtrack? I really had to go to Steam and buy the soundtrack for myself just because I love the music so much. Once again, I don't know what went through the heads of everyone at THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp Studios, because they just made some whack decisions with this game. Nonetheless, it was $5 well spent, and I love the soundtrack very much even after all these years. If there's one thing they didn't mess up even a teeny bit, it's the soundtrack. It's still as charming, vibrant, and as perfect as ever. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is not a perfect game, remaster, remake, port, whatever you want to label this as. Because after beating it, I'm not sure what it even is. It drove me nuts more than a lot of games recently have, and that's only because of the lack of polish and care put into the gameplay. The charm is still there, the amazing music, dialogue, and level design is all there, but Rehydrated falls flat right on its captain's quarters in terms of gameplay. It's just not a good game. Hopefully with some future support and patches, this game can become almost as good as the original. It'll still be the version I play for the coming years because it visually looks incredible, but I'm never going to 100% this game again because it was just unnecessarily tedious when it shouldn't have been that way if they just stuck to the formula of the original. All those reasons, and on top of the game crashing on me and corrupting my data, makes me give SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated a 6 out of 10. There's so much good here spiritually. They have so much going for them, but if the game spent a few more months in development and testing it, it would have been at least a 7 or 8 for me, but because of all the stupid problems I ran into, and the performance issues, and the game crashing, and the damn shiny object farming, it drove me nuts more times than it made me enjoy playing it. And that sucks. I wish I could say it's a perfect remake. I wanted to really, really love this game, but I don't. Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is a fun game for those who want to play it casually, but if you want to get everything in it, don't do it. Save yourself the effort and play a better 3D platformer collectathon. Thanks guys for watching my review of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. I still enjoyed some of my time with this game, and it was a fun nostalgic trip here and there. Hopefully THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp continue to support this game and make it better. I can't say I want to see another SpongeBob game from these guys though, unless they really polish it and take time to make it special. Like the original Battle for Bikini Bottom. Did you guys pick up Rehydrated? Have you experienced any glitches like I have? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching guys. Don't forget to check out my multiplayer channel for player gamers, where we just played the multiplayer portion of this game. So join us for the fun over there, and like the video. Once again, comment your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.